Welcome back into the Rowdy Studio. I'm Stephen Levine. This is Tom Vandervoort. Brad Keselowski was good at Texas.
He was great at Texas.
Better than he has been in years past, just like we expected him to be, but he wasn't good enough when it mattered.
Well, you can't give Jimmie Johnson, and he didn't give him a couple shots at the restart. The circumstances did. But when Jimmie gets a couple shots at the restart, you know, it's going to be tough. And he had 4 fresh tires. Brad only had 2. I think, you know, Keselowski and Wolff ran a great race. Obviously, he made a mistake sliding through his pit box that put him back, but they recovered brilliantly from that. And I got to tell you, the restart on which he held Jimmie off, that was some big boy driving right there. That was some big boy driving on both
Kyle Busch said, man, he said the same thing. He said, man, that was intense. That's what you need to do to win a championship. But Brad Keselowski made a mistake, and that was the difference in this race. And if you want to win a Sprint Cup championship against Jimmie Johnson, you cannot make mistakes. And Brad Keselowski made one, and he made it at like the worst time.
I got to tell you, I'm not quite as fixated on the mistake as you are, because I just think what Jimmie showed is that he can step it up when it counts. He's going into next week having won 2 straight poles and 2 straight races. That's stepping it up when it counts. Brad Keselowski is right there. We talked last week about the scenario for Keselowski to win this championship. Stay close to Jimmie and then have one race where you really capitalize. That's still tough. That's tough, but he's still right there. Now, Jimmie maxed out. Too bad for Brad Keselowski. Jimmie maxed out, so now he's 7 points back, Keselowski is. We're going to go to Phoenix, and chances are Jimmie's going to pick up some more points there. So if he's going to be probably in the 8 to 12 range here as far as points behind, or 10 to 12 range. So that's what he's going to have to make up at Homestead unless something wacky happens.
And this is why I said last week I thought that Jimmie Johnson took control, because he took the lead with tracks looking forward that he is really good at.
I agree, but you know, nonetheless, you look at Texas, and that was pretty much dead even. I mean, that was pretty much dead even. And Keselowski, I'll say this about the mistake. Keselowski, I do believe, had a faster car at the end of that race. But unfortunately, he had to make a strategy call to get that track position back because of the mistake.
Now, Kyle Busch finished 3rd. You know, I don't. It's like, do we talk about anybody else? Is there anything else worth talking about?
Not really.
I don't think there is.
It's the championship. These guys are on their game. I think Brad Keselowski is proving what we've seen in years past. When you're ready to compete with Jimmie, as Denny has been, as Carl Edwards has been, as Kevin Harvick has been in the past, you're going to be on your game at all these racetracks. I expect him to be very good at Phoenix. We know Jimmie's going to be good at Phoenix, just based on past performance and what we've seen the last couple weeks. So it's going to come down to Miami probably, with Jimmie having a slight advantage.
Can I just say this about Brad Keselowski?
Yes, you may.
I mean, I think everybody is sort of, over the past 2 seasons, their eyes have been open to Brad Keselowski. Not only how good he is, but how thoughtful he is, how much he brings to the sport. But I just want to point this out, because I don't think we're talking about this enough. He doesn't have a teammate. He's got a lame duck manufacturer. Right? And he is still basically a solo effort with Dodge under the hood, mounting a pretty stout championship run. I think that makes it even more impressive.
I agree with you, and you're right, we haven't talked about it enough. The guy, and he's not going to crack mentally. He's just not going to do it.
No, he's not. He's not going to do what Denny Hamlin did 2 years ago.
No.
And and I don't think Carl Edwards cracked mentally last season, but I think Brad Keselowski is going to be there at the end, and at Homestead he's going to be challenging for the championship. I don't think he's necessarily going to win the championship, but I think he'll still be right there. There will be a single-digit points differential between he and Jimmie Johnson when Jimmie claims the championship.
And I think the other thing you have to bear in mind from the flip side is this. Look at what Jimmie Johnson's doing when the chips are down, right? He's doing enough to beat an incredible performance by Keselowski. You look at yesterday, and Jimmie Johnson, and that was some great driving on his part. That was some great driving on his part. And you know now why he's a 5-time champion. He could be a 6-time champion, and clearly one of the all-time greats. So you have to tip your cap to Jimmie Johnson, whether you like seeing all this or not.
Well, can I just say, for those of you who say, well, that's bad for the sport, just shut up.
Oh.
Just shut up. Were the Canadians bad for the sport? Were the UCLA Bruins bad for that sport? Were the Celtics bad for that sport? Were the Yankees bad for that sport? Dynasties may not be exciting on some levels, but they're not bad for the sport.
Look, the problem with Jimmie Johnson, if you don't like him, is he's beating the guy you do like. And that's it. That's why people don't like him, because the same guy's beating my guy. And that's the nature of sports.
It's not bad for the sport.
You're bad for the sport.
There might be more exciting storylines, but that doesn't mean Jimmie Johnson is bad for the sport. That's just silly.
I don't think he's bad for the sport either.
All right, that's Tom. I'm Steven. You know, we're kind of bad for the sport.
You're very bad for the sport.
Thanks for watching anyway.